Brittney Griner thought she could get away with her controversial comments about Caitlin Clark, but Indiana Governor Braun just dropped a bombshell that has the entire WNBA scrambling after the league investigated fake claims against Fever fans, but ignored legitimate concerns about Griner's viral video. Political pressure is mounting and heads are about to roll. Do you think the WNBA's double standard in investigating claims shows clear bias against Caitlin Clark and her fanbase? Well, look who's suddenly feeling the heat now that someone with actual power decided to step in and call out the WNBA's ridiculous double standards. Brittney Griner has been sitting pretty, thinking her controversial comments would just blow over like they always do in this league that protects certain players at all costs. But Indiana Governor Braun just threw a massive wrench into that plan, and the fallout is going to be absolutely spectacular. Let's break down exactly what happened here, because this story has more layers than a wedding cake and twice as much drama.
She accused the Indiana Fever fan base of being racist. They investigated it. They said those accusations were false. The least that she could do is apologize to our great state and the fans that show up at these games and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Obviously, she's not going to do that. But also, Dan, why isn't the Indiana Fever apologizing to their own fan base for putting them through that, for going through those types of accusations? I mean, those are awful accusations. They weren't true. The fans weren't shouting racial slurs toward Angel Reese or opposing players. I mean, where is Caitlin Clark? Where is the Indiana Fever? Where is the WNBA saying that investigation there shouldn't have been an investigation? The allegations were false. Where's the apology? It hasn't happened. It's disappointing. As someone who is, my daughters are fans of the team. They've gone to games to see Caitlin Clark. It's so demeaning to our state and to the fan base to go through something like that. The least they can do.
The WNBA spent time and resources investigating completely fabricated claims about Fever fans making hateful comments toward Angel Reese after the Sky got demolished by 30 points. These claims were so obviously fake that even the league had to admit they were not substantiated. But here's where it gets really interesting. They rushed to investigate phantom racism against Reese while completely ignoring a viral video of Brittney Griner that has millions of people convinced she called Caitlin Clark trash and a foxing white girl.
Everyone deserves the right to play. Everyone deserves the right to come here, sit in these seats and feel safe and not feel like there's a threat or they can't be who they are. Definitely will be speaking up against that legislation and those laws that are trying to be passed, for sure.
The hypocrisy is so blatant, it's actually painful to watch. The WNBA will investigate invisible hate speech that doesn't exist, but when there's actual video evidence of potentially problematic behavior from one of their protected players, suddenly they develop selective hearing and vision problems. It's like they have a special superpower that only allows them to see discrimination when it fits their preferred narrative. Governor Braun saw right through this nonsense and called it out in the most diplomatic way possible. When he said, I think if there was some look into what Angel Reese did, I think it would be good to put that to rest as well. He wasn't just making a suggestion, he was putting the WNBA on notice that their bias isn't going unnoticed by people who actually matter.
Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are the best gift that the WNBA has ever had. I mean, and the fans that show up and pack that place, I mean, sell out crowds every time Caitlin Clark plays. It's so great for Indiana, but it's good for the WNBA. But how dare you accuse our fans, the Hoosiers that show up at these games, being racist when they're not? I mean, that was an opposing player who hates Caitlin Clark. Frankly, it's a great rivalry for the teams and for the sport. But don't accuse our fans of being racist. I mean, that's the kind of garbage that gets thrown around all the time. It wasn't true. The investigation proved it, and there was no outcome of it. There was no apology. Apologize to the fans. I mean, that's a simple thing to do, and I wish the team would have been more emphatic about that. Stand up, stick up for your fan base. I mean, that's who's keeping you alive. So maybe they'll still do that. I don't know. I mean, I tweeted that Angel Reese should apologize, and my tweet got a lot of reactions, but I'm not going to hold my.
The governor made it crystal clear that he has zero tolerance for bigotry and bullying, and believes that when comments are made that don't make sense, when it's out of line, you need to acknowledge it. But apparently, the WNBA only acknowledges things that are out of line when they can use them to protect certain players while attacking others. Now let's talk about this viral Brittney Griner video that has everyone talking. The footage shows Griner appearing to make comments that millions of viewers interpreted as calling Caitlin Clark trash and using a racial slur. Now, Griner's defenders claim she was actually calling the referee's decision trash and saying it was a forcing whack call. But here's the thing, if the comments were so obviously about the referee, why hasn't Griner herself come forward? To clarify, why hasn't the WNBA released a statement explaining the context? The silence is deafening, and it speaks volumes about how this league operates. When there's fake outrage about non-existent comments toward Angel Reese, they launch a full investigation faster than you can say victim complex. But when there's legitimate concern about real comments caught on video, suddenly they're too busy to address it. This whole situation perfectly illustrates the protected class system that exists in the WNBA. Certain players can do no wrong, while others get scrutinized for breathing the wrong way. Caitlin Clark gets criticized for every facial expression, every turnover, and every perceived slight toward her opponents. Meanwhile, Brittney Griner can allegedly make inflammatory comments on camera, and the league pretends it never happened. The timing of this controversy couldn't be more perfect either. This happened right after the Fever absolutely destroyed the Sky in a game where Caitlin Clark wasn't even playing. The Sky got so thoroughly embarrassed that they needed something to distract from their complete organizational failure. So suddenly, mysterious, hateful comments from Fever fans appeared out of nowhere, conveniently giving the league something to investigate that would make Reese look like a victim instead of a player who got outplayed by a team missing their superstar. But Governor Braun isn't playing these games. He understands what Caitlin Clark means to Indiana and what she's done for basketball in his state. He knows that Clark sells out the Gainbridge Arena just like the Pacers do, and has rekindled a lot of that spirit at both the college and high school levels. This isn't just about basketball. This is about protecting an athlete who has brought unprecedented attention and economic impact to Indiana. The governor's comments about hoping the hatred against Clark could come to an end while calling for equal treatment show exactly what this is really about. The WNBA has allowed a toxic culture to develop where attacking Caitlin Clark is not only acceptable but encouraged, while defending her or her fans gets you labeled as problematic. Senator Jim Banks already called on the WNBA to apologize to Fever fans for their fake investigation, and now Governor Braun is essentially backing that call while demanding equal treatment for legitimate concerns. These aren't random politicians looking for headlines. These are elected officials from Indiana who understand the economic and cultural impact of what's happening. The fact that government officials are getting involved should be a massive wake-up call for the WNBA. When your bias becomes so obvious that politicians feel the need to step in, you've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. This isn't about politics. This is about basic fairness and equal treatment under the league's own policies. Brittney Griner's reaction to all this must be absolutely priceless. She's used to the WNBA protecting her from any real consequences for her actions. She's used to being treated as untouchable because of her story and her status within the league's social hierarchy. But now she's facing the possibility of actual scrutiny from people who don't care about the WNBA's internal politics and power structures. The contrast between how this situation is being handled versus how any controversy involving Clark gets treated is so stark it's almost comical. When Clark gets fouled hard, the media asks if she deserved it. When someone potentially makes disparaging comments about Clark, the league ignores it. But when fake claims get made about her fans, suddenly, the WNBA transforms into CSI Basketball Edition. This investigation that Governor Braun is calling for could open up a massive can of worms for the WNBA. Once you start actually examining the evidence and applying equal standards, a lot of uncomfortable truths are going to come to light. The league has been operating under a system where certain players get protection while others get persecution, and that system is about to face some serious external pressure. The most damaging part of this whole controversy isn't even the specific comments Griner may or may not have made. It's the revelation of how corrupt and biased the WNBA's investigation process really is. They'll investigate fake claims about fans, but ignore real concerns about players. They'll rush to protect certain athletes while allowing others to get attacked with impunity. Governor Braun's involvement also highlights something the WNBA has been trying desperately to ignore. Caitlin Clark is bigger than their league. She brings attention, money, and credibility that the WNBA has never had before. When government officials start defending her and calling out the league's bias, it shows that Clark's impact extends far beyond basketball. The timing of all this couldn't be worse for Brittney Griner either. She's already been dealing with various controversies and criticism, and now she's facing the possibility of actual accountability for her actions. The comfortable bubble of protection she's enjoyed might finally be bursting, and that has to be terrifying for someone who's used to getting special treatment. What makes this even more interesting is that Griner can't play the victim card here like she usually does. This isn't about her personal struggles or her background. This is about potentially inflammatory comments she made about another player. She can't deflect this onto her critics or claim persecution when there's actual video evidence of her words. The WNBA is now caught in an impossible position. They can either continue ignoring the Griner situation and face increasing political pressure, or they can investigate it and admit that their previous inaction was biased and inappropriate. Either choice makes them look terrible, which is exactly what they deserve for creating this mess in the first place. Governor Braun's comments about embracing what Caitlin Clark has done for the league instead of throwing around comments that might indicate otherwise perfectly captures the absurdity of this situation. Clark has brought more attention and revenue to the WNBA than any player in history, yet certain players and even league officials seem determined to diminish her accomplishments. The fact that political figures are now getting involved shows that this controversy has moved beyond basketball and into the realm of real-world consequences. The WNBA can't just sweep this under the rug or wait for it to blow over like they usually do. When governors and senators start making statements, that's when you know the situation has reached a critical point. This whole situation also exposes the complete hypocrisy of the WNBA's social justice posturing. They love to talk about equality and fairness, but their actions show they only care about those principles when they can be used to benefit certain players. True equality would mean investigating all claims with the same urgency and applying the same standards to everyone. The investigation that Governor Braun is calling for could potentially expose years of biased decision-making and preferential treatment within the WNBA. Once you start pulling on this thread, there's no telling how much corruption and favoritism might unravel. The league has been playing favorites for so long that they might not even realize how obvious their bias has become. Brittney Griner's shock at facing potential consequences is probably genuine because she's never had to deal with real accountability before. The WNBA has protected her through every controversy and criticism, so the idea of actually being investigated for her actions must be completely foreign to her. The governor's involvement also sends a clear message to other politicians and officials that this issue matters to their constituents. Caitlin Clark has fans across the country, and those fans vote. When elected officials start defending her and calling out league bias, other politicians are going to take notice. This controversy perfectly illustrates why the WNBA struggles with credibility and respect. When your investigation process is so obviously biased that government officials feel the need to call you out, you've lost any pretense of fairness or legitimacy. The league has sacrificed its integrity on the altar of protecting certain players, and now they're paying the price. The most satisfying part of this whole situation is watching the WNBA's carefully constructed narrative fall apart in real time. They've spent so much energy trying to minimize Caitlin Clark's impact while propping up other players that they've created an obviously unsustainable system. Now that system is being exposed for exactly what it is, a biased protection racket for favored players. Governor Braun's comments about Indiana being the basketball state and Clark being in the right state show that this controversy has regional and economic implications that extend far beyond the WNBA. When you attack the player who's bringing unprecedented attention and revenue to an entire state, don't be surprised when that state's leadership fights back. The WNBA's house of cards is finally collapsing, and Brittney Griner is about to learn what real accountability looks like. Governor Braun just changed the entire game by demanding equal treatment for all players. What do you think will happen when this investigation starts? Drop your predictions below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more breaking WNBA drama.